Donald Trump was sworn in as the 47th President of the United States on January 20th, 2025. This marked the beginning of a new era in American politics. His inauguration speech echoed themes from his first campaign and presidency. He emphasized a commitment to putting America first and promised to restore American strength on the world stage. With bold promises and a determined spirit, he set a confrontational tone for his second term. One of Trump's first actions was to sign a series of executive orders. These orders signaled a clear direction for his administration's priorities. Immigration, energy, and government reform emerged as key areas of focus. His supporters hailed these actions as decisive leadership. They believed that Trump was taking swift action to fulfill his campaign promises. However, critics expressed concern over the potential implications of these actions. They argued that some of the orders were divisive and could lead to legal challenges. The stage was set for a tumultuous second term, as President Trump wasted no time in implementing his agenda. The nation watched closely, divided along partisan lines, as the implications of his actions began to unfold. This is the beginning of a new chapter in the Trump saga. The coming years would determine the lasting legacy of Donald Trump's presidency. Immigration emerged as a dominant theme in the early days of Trump's second term. He wasted no time in addressing what he considered a crisis at the southern border. One of his first acts as president was to declare a national emergency. This declaration granted him broad authority to redirect funds and resources towards border security. Trump argued that this action was necessary to combat illegal immigration and drug trafficking. He ordered the deployment of additional troops to the border. He also directed the Department of Homeland Security to expedite the construction of his long-promised border wall. These measures were met with both praise and condemnation. Supporters applauded Trump's decisive stance on immigration. They believed that a strong border was essential for national security. They argued that previous administrations had failed to adequately address the issue. However, opponents of the president's actions raised concerns about their legality and effectiveness. They criticized the deployment of troops as an unnecessary militarization of the border. Civil rights groups challenged the national emergency declaration in court. They argued that it was an abuse of executive power. The debate over immigration policy once again exposed the deep divisions within American society. It remained a defining issue of the Trump presidency. President Trump made it clear that energy independence would be a cornerstone of his second term. He believed that the United States had the potential to be energy dominant. He sought to unleash American energy production by rolling back regulations and promoting fossil fuels. One of his most significant actions was to withdraw the United States from the Paris Agreement on climate change. Trump argued that the agreement was unfair to American businesses and workers. He believed that it would stifle economic growth and harm American competitiveness. This decision drew sharp criticism from environmental groups and world leaders. They argued that it would undermine global efforts to combat climate change. Undeterred by international pressure, Trump pressed ahead with his energy agenda. He signed executive orders aimed at expediting the approval of pipelines and other energy infrastructure projects. He also opened up federal lands and waters to oil and gas exploration. These actions were met with enthusiasm by the energy industry. They argued that it would create jobs and boost the American economy. However, environmental groups raised concerns about the potential environmental consequences of increased fossil fuel production. They argued that it would exacerbate climate change and harm public health. The debate over energy policy reflected a broader philosophical divide over the role of government and the balance between economic growth and environmental protection. President Trump entered his second term with a stated goal of reforming the federal government. He believed that the government was too large, too bureaucratic, and too intrusive in the lives of everyday Americans. He promised to streamline government operations, reduce waste, and promote traditional values. One of his first actions was to announce a federal hiring freeze. This freeze, with some exceptions, was intended to reduce the size of the federal workforce and curb government spending. He also ordered a review of federal regulations with the goal of eliminating those he deemed burdensome or unnecessary. These actions were met with mixed reactions. Supporters of the president's actions applauded his efforts to reduce the size and scope of government. They believed that it would unleash economic growth and restore individual liberty. However, critics argued that the hiring freeze would harm the delivery of essential government services. They also expressed concern that the rollback of regulations could have negative consequences for public health, safety, and the environment. In addition to these measures, Trump took steps to promote what he considered traditional values within the government. He issued an executive order barring federal funding for organizations that provide abortions or counseling about abortion. This action was praised by social conservatives, but condemned by pro-choice groups. The debate over the role of government in American society continued to rage on. Trump's actions on government reform reflected his broader philosophy of limited government and individual responsibility.